I'm going to show my screen here, and I'm going to talk about one enhancement that just came through this week relative to uh, the CSV import process, or kind of the non-testable integrated import process with mail2. I'm going to log into my test client here. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay. There has been a change to the CSV import process that I like. I think it makes it a little cleaner, a little simpler. Anyway, if you're importing contacts into mail2, either into a list or a group or whatever it might be, and you're bringing it in through this import process, I'm just going to do one quick. Contacts, add, and import. And I'm going to select the CSV option. And I have a file out here that I use all the time. If I can find it. Sponsor list. And I click on the next button. And I'm just going to add contacts to lists or groups. I'm just going to dump them into a group in my test environment. Set my opt-in method or source. My mapping is all the same. I'm basically just going to create a new list. And down at the bottom, where you can plug in your email address, it's basically changed up a little bit where you don't have to actually select the 5 different check boxes anymore, which is kind of nice. It's just going to, if there's an email address in there, it's just going to give you all the data that it has, so you don't have to kind of cherry pick what you want. And typically I was selecting all 5 of those to begin with. Folks are not seeing my screen. Is it hiding behind, hiding behind another window? Some are seeing it, some are not.
Morale and management. Yeah. Anyways, they're gone. Well, I cannot see it.
There, I just reset.
I could see it now.
Okay. I'll repeat that. Contacts, add, import. That's going to make for a really good recording.
Yeah, that's all you guys meant.
We're picking up some chatter from somebody on a phone. If you can mute out, that would be great. I'll just create my group again. Change my email address. And do the import. Just don't have to select the 5 boxes at the bottom anymore. And when my import is done, it actually just takes me directly to this page. If the import is small enough, if I come back later and want to see that, I'll have a link to that in the email that I get. And actually the email pretty much replicates this as well. And also here, along with that, is a new report called Import History as well. And you can actually view the summaries of imports that were done within the last 30 days as well. So kind of a new wrinkle, improvement, I think, on the CSV import process that went live, I do believe, yesterday. We pushed that out. Questions on that at all?
I'm only seeing 2 under the last 30 days. And for some reason they're saying status failed.
Was that Jennifer?
Yes, and it look, sorry, yes, it's Jennifer, and they appear to be the same exact campaign as well. So just want to put that out there.
I'll have to look in and take a look at that. It may be.
My apologies. Is this strictly for CSVs?
Yes.
Not imports?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. That might make sense then.
Okay. I'll take a look at that, Jennifer. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, cool. Let me check the chat window here, see if...
Oh, sorry, it's Kelly. Is there a way to see which list it was imported to?
Yep, in the summary.
In the view summary, it's there? Sorry.
Yep. Right there.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Catherine Renardi, are you able to see my screen now? Or is it still scrambled? Is anybody else seeing a scrambled screen? Okay. All right. I want to talk a little bit about the metrics project that I assisted a client with recently. Actually, I'm still assisting with it as it's kind of up and running now. And I'm going to pull up a little PowerPoint presentation that I threw together here. I call this kind of a jump start for your measurement program. A quick kind of poll of the group. How many organizations today that are on the call today actually have some type of metrics program in place that measures their email marketing program? Maybe just type in the chat window if you do or if you don't. Everybody at the Cultural Trust? Cool. Will at Will Meyer at AdPack does. Leanne Day, we do, but really basic. Basic is fine. Stratford, I know you guys do some pretty significant stuff. And really kind of what I find across the board with our different clients is it's actually you're in the minority if you do have a measurement program, even if it's simple. And a lot of times, because of the kind of the labor overhead often associated with gathering metrics, some organizations are just simply stretched too thin. So that's what I hear a lot of times. Well, we would like to measure, but we just don't have the time to do it. And to me, I think if you start simple and kind of get in the habit of it, it becomes easier to do. And that's really kind of the problem that was brought up by this one client that I worked with to get this going. This organization came up on mail2 earlier this summer, and during that time, as we were bringing up mail2, there was a new, I think, director level position brought in, a new person brought in, and that director kind of came in as the project was in flight, and then asked kind of the lead email marketing person to come up with a way to measure effectiveness with this new tool that they were implementing, and I was asked to help out with that. And this is really kind of how we got that jump started. So we really kind of followed this process. First thing that we wanted to do was understand what data was available in mail2. What data do you have at your disposal? And that's really kind of key. So we actually had a kind of a session with the main users and the new director, and said, kind of walk through all the different things in the reporting, from completed campaign reporting, etc. And then coming out of that, their takeaway was determine what's important to your organization. And once you understand that, we can kind of come back and set up how you want to grab that data, find that data, report on it in some type of method with some type of cadence. Is it monthly? Is it weekly? Whatever it is. And then from there we can set a baseline of some improvement goals and then move ahead from there. And kind of the whole thing, the whole mantra around this project was really trying to keep it simple. And when we reviewed things, we went in and looked at email digest, a completed campaign report, campaign comparison, the contact engagement report, and then also looked at saved searches. So those were kind of the highlights that we reviewed. We didn't get into everything, every little bit of data that mail2 can bring up. So we kind of stuck to some of the highlight things and reviewed that as a team. Then we determined that we wanted to come up with a list of key performance indicators or KPIs, what's really most important to the organization, and really wanted to kind of keep that as simple as possible. So we sort of limited it to, geez, if we can keep it at 5, that would be great, but let's not go more than 7. And ultimately, did a little brainstorming, came up with a list. I think the original list had about 12 or 13 things on it, and we ultimately boiled it down to kind of this priority list. Average click-to-open ratio, that tells you that people are opening and clicking on calls to action. So that seemed to be like the best one to kind of look at overall and see where that was trending. Unique opens, total sent, they wanted to have an understanding of the volume of email that they were sending over time, and was that fluctuating, was it steady, did it seem like a lot, does it seem like the right amount, does it seem like too little? Kind of part and parcel to that was unsubscribes and actually spam complaints. Anybody that marks a campaign as spam is then globally unsubscribed, so we wanted to look at globally unsubscribes, both from kind of the action that the recipient was taking or from a spam complaint. Engagement conversion, which is what percentage of your contacts in your full database are actually engaged with you. We talked about Google Analytics, but they weren't set up on Google Analytics yet, and that's now kind of become a future enhancement project for them on their website to get e-commerce in place and start bringing that in. And then finally, one thing from a cost consideration perspective was keeping an eye on total active contacts. And those are really the 7 things that they wanted to start measuring either right now or into the future. So we basically set up a scorecard for weekly tracking. We determined that we wanted to have the data gathered on a weekly basis, and the main user assigned to this goes in each Monday and updates the spreadsheet, but then bi-weekly the whole team gets together and does a quick review of it. They figured bi-weekly was enough, long enough in between. It wasn't overkill in terms of meeting. And in their scorecard, they outline upcoming milestones and decision points, and we kind of came up with a spreadsheet to do that. And really kind of the benefit of this, it allows the team to see patterns and then kind of dig deeper into things that jump out at them in their reporting. I'm going to jump over actually to a copy of, similar to what they use today. They've since modified it quite a bit. But this was kind of our starting point a week or 2 ago. Is that too small for folks? See if I can bump it up a little bit bigger here. But really, it's just a simple spreadsheet. It's their scorecard that they complete every week. On Monday, they come in and they look at total active contacts. They basically collect that right off the mail2 dashboard, see where they're at. Is it moving up or down? They're kind of right at the cusp of 100,000 contacts. So they're kind of considering, geez, can we get down below the 100,000 level and actually save a few bucks per month and still have some room to grow later on? So that's one big thing that they're looking at. Total emails sent, unique opens, click-to-open ratio, those are all gathered off of the campaign comparison report. Basically, they go in each Monday, pull up all the campaigns that were sent over the previous week, and they pull those numbers directly out of the composite numbers right out of the campaign comparison report and plug them in here. Spam and global unsubscribes, they collect on Monday using a save search that they have set up. So it just, you go in, you change the date parameters on the Save Search, and it tells you in the blink of an eye how many spam complaints and global unsubscribes, and they just aggregate that number to kind of look at that overall. And then their engagement conversion. And this has been really interesting since they were startup in July, how their engagement conversion percentage is continuing to increase over time, although we are now starting to just see it sort of flatten out now that they're a couple months into using mail2. So they're right around 49%, and it doesn't seem to be moving much. And that is kind of a red flag to us saying, hey, we've got a lot of non-engagers out there. What should we be doing to perhaps either get them re-engaged or trim them? So just within the last couple weeks, we got together on another quick meeting during their bi-weekly review and kind of looked at how their averages were shaping up for the KPIs that they picked. And what really jumped out was, like I mentioned, engagement conversion, global unsubscribes, and kind of their click-to-open ratio. And this click-to-open ratio is actually pretty decent, kind of considering sort of broader benchmarks within the industry. That's actually pretty good. But really where they're focused now is kind of on this engagement conversion percentage. They got a lot of active contacts, but only 49% of those, or they got a lot of contacts, but only 49% are active, and they really want to start trimming that down to help give this some lift, which in turn will definitely give lift to opens and click-throughs and all the other metrics that kind of go along with it. So also as part of that meeting, what we did is we kind of talked through, let's pick some goals out for each of these that kind of matter. So maybe we want to get to under 100,000 contacts by the end of the year after we do a re-engagement campaign. Is there a way that we can drive our click-to-open ratio above the 13%? Just kind of looking arbitrarily at what our average is and going, let's see if we can do a little bit better on that. And then get our spam and global unsubscribes down to under 100 per week by the end of the year. And then that big one out there, the engagement conversion percentage, 60% within the performing arts industry would be really good. And we kind of landed on 60% as that number that we want to hit with their engagement percentage. And that's probably going to happen only through a re-engagement campaign and a purge process. So that was kind of the direction that we took after we gathered some data and developed a baseline understanding of those key things. Questions on that? Comments? Okay. So after 8 weeks of discussion, like I said, we noted the goals on the scorecard, and now they're bi-weekly reviews. Leanne says she would like a copy of the spreadsheet and do ours differently. Absolutely, I can share this. It's not copyrighted or anything. They all just kind of came out of the team. So the bi-weekly review really now centers around how are we doing? Are we seeing any movement every other week? And a copy for the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust will do. And coming out of our meeting a couple weeks ago, like I mentioned, moving forward, they really want to look at re-engagement campaigns, purge of non-engagers, and then the other thing that we threw out there is MV split testing, mostly on sender name and subject lines. So they're in the process of coming up with a game plan for doing MV split testing, starting with sender name. What is going to give them the most opens based on their sender name? And then from there, once they kind of drill that in a little bit better, and we see some lift in that metric, especially in their area of opens, then we're going to move over to subject lines and see if the subject lines, we can connect changing up the subject lines to a better click-to-open ratio, people heeding calls to action, and a couple of other things thrown in there too. So at the end of our last meeting, I asked, so how does the team kind of feel about this? How are you benefiting from actually starting to to measure this. And just a quick poll, the group said, well, having a simple data gathering and review process is really good. The administrative overhead is very light. We don't have to spend a lot of time doing anything on a weekly basis. Hours pulling reports. It's all there. We can just quick go in and get it. It gives us insight into things, the way things are today, that we didn't have before. The team now has consensus around the goals. They see where they're at, and they agree more readily on what needs to be done to make improvements. When you make a change to something, they're confident that they're going to see some changes in where that KPI, where the needle on a KPI falls. For example, we're pretty confident, and I've seen this many times in doing re-engagement campaigns, is the lift that you get when you go through a re-engagement campaign and potentially purging out non-engaged contacts. Obviously, your engagement conversion rate is going to increase pretty significantly. And the other thing that got brought up, and I totally agree with this, it's a good cause for celebration when you meet a goal. So I think if they hit their 13% click to open ratio, which is a big goal, when they hit that, I think they're going to have cause for celebration. And ultimately, when they get to having Google Analytics e-commerce in place, that too will be a big plus for them in seeing how they can dollarize the value of what email marketing is doing for them. So that's my little case study. Hopefully you found that at least interesting, or maybe got some good ideas around that. Any questions on the whole measurement thing at all? As far as the things that this particular organization settled on in terms of things that they measure, I'm getting a message here. Am I breaking up to a lot of folks, or just a couple? Or one or two? Okay. Jennifer, I can definitely get with you on this, and also this is being recorded, so hopefully the recording will be good, and I can share the recording with you.
If it's my end, hopefully the recording's fine, and that will cover it, because I'm actually in the process of handling all this now, so it would be interesting to hear what you had to say.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yep. As far as what other folks are measuring that's not on this list, I'd be really interested to hear if you're measuring things other than this. If so, why are you measuring those? And kind of any additional thoughts you might have on it. Anything else that jumps out at you that you would measure? I guess that makes me feel good if nobody's measuring anything different. That makes this team feel like they hit what's important to most. So maybe we got a good boilerplate, a good template here. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. I want to talk a little bit about multivariate split testing, and this is actually, some of you may have seen this presentation previously, but like I mentioned at the top of the call, recently I've been getting a lot of questions about how to do multivariate split testing, which is great. It's awesome. I love it, and I think it's one of those things that where if you have an inkling or a gut feel about how something is working or is performing or is affecting your measures, multivariate split testing is the way to determine if you are assuming the right things, or if the data is going to bear out something totally different. And I probably referenced this particular case study several times, but this is going on about a year ago. We actually did a battery of multivariate split testing with Ruth Eckerd Hall. We ended up doing over 45 different splits on sender, subject, content, time of day, and basically looked for improved open rates. And it sort of broke down like this. Their email list had about 160,000 people, contacts on it. And we did splits, usually ABCs, and when we did a split test on the sender name, it kind of broke out like this. When they tried from Ruth Eckerd Hall, they tried REHE Club, and then also tried Ruth E News. And the assumption going into this was that Ruth Eckerd Hall, since that's kind of the full name, that is the most recognizable when it pops up in email, that would probably garner the most opens. Ruth E News, kind of catchy, maybe a little bit different type of sender name, and then REHE Club. It's a little bit more obscure in my opinion when you first look at it. You know, an acronym, what does that all mean? But basically, through the course of that test, we ended up finding that the REHE Club from name, the sender name, actually garnered a higher open rate. For some reason, that just kind of struck a chord with the recipients. So that's the one that was greater, 5% greater open rate. What does that amount to? If you do the math on it, that's an additional 8,000 opens per month just by changing the sender name. That's not a small number. Granted, that's a pretty big list that they send to, but that's a pretty big jump in opens just by dialing in on what is most recognizable in the inbox when it comes to sender name. So it's a great time of year to do kind of split tests before you get too crazy with the holiday season and all the nonsense that goes on with that and the busy schedules that go on with that. So if you have a chance to do split testing now, I highly recommend it. Do things like check your sender, what's most recognizable as a sender name, your subject lines, that type of thing, and start to drill into what's driving clicks and opens now before we get absolutely crazy toward the end of the year. Any thoughts on that, or anybody want me to kind of go through setting up a multivariate split test? Go through that procedure? Can I go over? I sure can, Will. That's a great one. Actually, believe it or not, that one's pretty darn easy. Multivariate splits. Kind of the overview. This may be a review for some of you that have done them in the past, but it's always good to brush up on it. I'm going to create a new campaign, and I'm going to create a multivariate split. And first thing I'm going to do is pick my recipients. I'm just going to send this to my general e-newsletter list and click Save and Next. And the first thing I do is determine my splits. I can add splits, and really I can add as many as I want. I would never do that. Basically, you would have a hard time determining what's really driving things. 2, 3, 4 is probably sufficient. You can always add and subtract. I can change the amount, the number of contacts within that split as well, the percentage. Personally, I think keeping them relatively small, around the 5% of your total list, is probably sufficient to determine a winner. There's some statisticians out there that will tell you that if they survey 100 people in the U.S. on something, that they can get the pulse of the whole country from 100 people. So I think a split size of 5 to 10% is probably sufficient. Once I have that set, save and next. On the Details tab, there's 3 things on the Details tab that you can split. Subject, and if I want to split the subject, I split it and put in a different subject for each one of my splits. I can split on sender's email address. So if I want this to come from different email addresses, and then the sender's name here as well. Since we're splitting content in this one, I'm going to leave it all the same. Oops, got to put in a subject. And just going to grab a regular old template here. And just going to grab a little 1 column. Okay, when it comes to splitting content, content can be image, it can be text, whatever it is, and it's really done with a conditional content statement. And if you're not familiar with conditional content, here's the conditional content button here, and it's handy for doing all kinds of stuff. And for split testing, this is where all the magic happens. When I click on my conditional content button, I basically build my conditions around my split letters. So if split letter equals A, my A version content goes here. I click on the else if, split letter equals B, my B stuff goes here. And one more time, split letter equals C, C stuff in this spot. And I just insert that. Some placeholder content in there. And really, anything that you put in between the curly brace areas here, that's what will appear in those various splits. And that, again, that can be text, that can be images, that can be a combination of those 2 things. So whatever you want to put in between there, as long as it falls within those different tokens, that's what will show up in that particular version when it gets deployed out. Make sense, Will? Cool. Any questions on that at all? And I'm just going to quick go to sender schedule here and talk about the final thing that you can split test on, and that is send time. You can actually pick the different times that you'd want to split test the various parts, various versions on, but clearly what you don't want to do is layer in too many types of splits or types of tests or things that you are testing, because it'll be harder to determine what's actually driving your clicks and opens. And then finally, you can actually have mail2 select the winner and deploy the winner automatically whenever you choose, based on the criteria that you choose as well. But really, what you want to do is kind of zero in with your split testing on certain elements, and then move on to a different set of elements with another battery of tests later on. Questions, thoughts, plans? Anybody planning to do any split testing now? Jennifer McGoldrick, I've had this on my radar. Yep. I don't know that you guys actually have kind of a slow season, Jennifer. Or, you know, kind of the calm before the storm.
It's just always busy.
Man, it would be great if it could choose the winner based on the amount of dollars it converted in Google. Yes, it would be. That is actually on the enhancement list, Leanne. The way around that is to actually do it manually. Set choosing the winner to manually, And that way, when you come in and look at that, you can actually look at the campaign reporting with that in there. You could use that as your criteria. It can be done manually, but not automatically at this point. Any other final questions from the group before we call it a day? Okay, gang. Well, that's cool. I will actually, if you are on this call today, I'll email out a copy of that metrics spreadsheet, that simple metrics spreadsheet, as food for thought for you. And beyond that, if anything else comes up, hit us up on the support line, and we will talk to you next month. I think next month we're probably going to focus in on some of the enhancements that are still in the pipeline. Hopefully we'll have an update on responsive design templates, and we're also going to look at some things to prep for kind of the holiday season, Black Friday season, some tips on that, and anything else that kind of crops up between now and then. Leanne had a question in here. We have found in the past that the smaller the open rate gets, the larger the dollar conversion. Has anyone else see this? I have not noticed that, but that's, hold on, jot that down. With splits. Interesting. Okay. Yep, true. All right. Anything else before we go, gang? All right, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time today, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.